Biochemistry. Today I'm going to tell you about the importance of biochemistry in medical field. Generally, the most important thing which I consider is useful in pharmacology, but in all the exams they ask biochemistry, and that's a subject you cannot leave it, and you have to learn it. So, but the good thing about the subject is there are a lot of repetitive topics which people ask, and and they don't ask you a depth knowledge of it, so you have to be aware of most frequently asked questions, and are sufficient for to know about the biochemistry. So let's start with the topic, vitamins. General aspect. The first important thing to know is what is the richest source of retinoids is halibut liver oil, though according to some of the research found it that whale liver oil or swordfish liver oil are rich source, and next comes the halibut liver oil. And there is a normal misunderstanding about cod liver oil, but fortunately the halibut liver oil is most richest source. Next we come towards reading about is uh, there is one more source of sweet potatoes, which are very good source of vitamin, uh, which is source of vitamin A. Sorry. So there is another richest source of vitamin D is blue fin tuna fish, or richest source of B12 vitamin is shellfish. And vitamin E, the richest source is wheat germ oil. So you can sometimes you can see the vitamin E capsule is said it's contained wheat germ oil. And another thing you have to remember about vitamins and their antivitamins. For example, vitamin K, the anti inhibitor, like or you can say antagonist of that is warfarin. So whenever there is a warfarin overdose, or sometimes we use vitamin K, or it has antagonist action of vitamin K. So the next thing which you have to remember is the vitamins which are generally given in doses in micrograms. Like for example, the vitamins which are given in micrograms are A, D, K, and B9, for which is folic acid, and while B12 vitamins. And vitamin C's are in dose of milligrams, which are given, and other vitamin E and other B complexes are given in milligrams, the doses. And which another questions generally people ask is what are sulfur containing vitamins. It can be thiamine, biotin, lipoic acids. So vitamin A, that's generally about the vitamins. So now we will look more into depth about vitamin A. The vitamin A are generally broadly into two types called retinoids or carotenoids. Retinoids are generally, you can say in a short, like non-veg food, which are like cod liver oil, or liver, or in egg or milk. And you can remember that exceptional, like all there are non-veg, and exceptional like milk and cereals which you eat like a breakfast. So it's a good source of vitamin A. Then for carotenoids you can see carrots, spinach, and there can be also tomatoes, which can be very good source of vitamin A. And the importance of vitamin A, we have to look to this. is that it has first important function is antioxidant properties. Second, it's useful in growth. Now, how it is useful in the antioxidant property, let's we see. When basically it helps in radiating ionizing radiation, like helping the function of from beta carotene it gets carotenized. There is a like very long process. In short, generally you have to remember that this has antioxidant property, vitamin K, but only the thing about, sorry, vitamin A, the only important thing about vitamin A we have to remember is if you take it in a large quantity, then only this vitamin acts as antioxidant properties. The another thing important function of vitamin A is that it is used as growth, function of growth, uh, useful in a function of growth. And the antioxidant property, mainly the most potent powerful antioxidant is vitamin E, which can also called as tocopherol, for growth. For the growth, you can understand that how it helps in the function of growth is that for growth the vitamin A are bound by retinol binding proteins, which get attached to its three different receptors: cis retinal binding protein, cis retinoic acid binding protein, cis retinal binding protein, and those get binded in your RNA GNA system DNA transcription process, in which in this what happens, then transcription process mRNA is formed and the protein is synthesized. So it helps in growth, vitamin A. One more thing also is important is that vitamin A D can also is useful in growth, but the only thing condition is that it doesn't need to get attached to the receptor as in the case of vitamin A, but it can directly enter into the cells, and it can directly attach and to the genetic material and do the DNA process of protein synthesis. But the most important thing is, in order to have this process, it needs vitamin A. So therefore we can say in this case the vitamin A is the most potent protein synthesis. Another thing about the protein, vitamin A you have to remember about is the cell cycle in the eyes, which is very important function of vitamins, is that option which is present in our eyes, uh, is by the action of 11 cis retinaldehyde get converted into rhodopsins. And then you have to remember by the mnemonics please be like me, that this rhodopsin get converted to photorhodopsin, beta rhodopsin, lumirhodopsin, then meta 1 rhodopsin, meta 2 rhodopsin, meta 3 rhodopsin. Like this conversion takes place, and the most after converting from M2 to M3, meta 2 to meta 3, there takes place the activation of enzyme called as transserine. Transserine. Sorry, I forgot the name of this. It was transserine, which indirect activate the PDA, which helps in closing the sodium channel. You have to remember that there is a closing of closing sodium channel in this case, as there are, it can be always asked in MCQs, can like it generally doesn't help to open the channel, but it closes the channel, which leads to stimulation in the brain, and this is the function how it acts of vitamin A. One more thing about you have to remember about vitamin A is very important is WHO classification of Xerophthalmia, which is, you have to must remember this, and a lot of questions are asked from this, in which you can say XN is night blindness, X1A is congenital xerosis. You can remember N for night blindness. A, congenital xerosis. B, bitot spot. X2, corneal xerosis. X3A, corneal ulceration. From X3 from S2 it started to corneal involvement, and from S3 it became started ulceration. The only difference between SA and B is that it is in 1/3 of the percent, and here it is like it is less than 1/3, it is more than 1/3. And in this stage, generally X3B, there is irreversible blindness in the patient. And the later stage is X3, which is called as corneal ulcer, X4, which is Kerr, or xerophthalmic fundus, in which irreversible changes and complete blindness will happen. So one more thing about function about one more thing about vitamin D, which I want to emphasize, is that different forms of vitamin D's are present. Generally VG2, which are called algocalciferol, which is present in plants. And then there is another form which is in the medicine, or which is present in animals. In humans are cholecalciferol. Chole, like a bile, or kind of in a human being, kind of bladder, kind of gallbladder. So it just a way to remember it. And then this get converted in liver into 25 hydroxycholecalciferol, which is also called as calcidiol, which further get converted in kidney into 1,2,5 dihydroxycholecalciferol, which is called as calcitriol in kidney. And what happens is, generally in the presence of UV light, when there is sunlight which is falling on the skin when it falls, so what happens in the skin, the hydrocolciferol hydrocholesterol get converted into cholecalciferol, and then this get converted to 25 hydroxycholecalciferol in liver, and then 125 hydroxycholecalciferol. So these things are, you have to remember about vitamin A, vitamin D, and few points about rich source of vitamins. And thank you very much for hearing. If you have any doubt or any comment, please. Yes.